Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Collar X Malice. We are now in the headquarters of our dateable guys who are going after the perpetrators of the X-Day incidents. And let us continue getting to know each other and figuring out exactly what's going on here. You can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. He must be thinking about how I feel about all this. Even if it's just for their own goals, even if it's just because this collar might be a clue. His words, which showed that he was taking me as an individual into consideration, were very reassuring. But by examining the collar, do you mean...
I forgot to mention.
That's everyone going... At the sudden sound, everyone's eyes focused on my collar.
It would be pointless to try to take this collar off. If you try to do it by force, we cannot guarantee the woman's safety. You can examine it to your heart's content, but should we find out what you are doing goes against our interest, the result will be the same. More importantly, focus on investigating the X-Day incidents. Once you know the truth, you surely won't be able to keep clinging to your current sense of justice. We will see whether you still consider us to be in the wrong at that point.
That's everyone doing the dots. Was that the culprit just now? That was a warning, wasn't it? Gee, you think? They made sure to do this when we were all gathered together. It seems like they really like to show off. Hoshino, are you all right? Yes. Sorry. They're really watching us through this collar, aren't they? This is the first I've heard the culprit's voice since that time I was lying paralyzed from the poison. Well, it's not like it's been that long. It's as if they're trying to say, we're always watching you. As the feeling of despair took hold of me, I clenched my palms tightly into fists. Well, they might say they want us to join them all they want. Even though we've quit, it doesn't change the fact that we've been in the police too. Upon hearing those words, I raised my head to look at Enomoto. He used to be in the police? I looked up Yanagi, so I know he used to be a police officer, but both you and Sasazuka were in the police as well? Idiot. Go get someone to sew up that big mouth of yours. It just slipped out a bit, okay? So, it's true? As I kept pushing the issue, Enomoto looked to Yanagi as if pleading for help. There's no need to hide it. If you wanted to, you could find that out easily. While we're at it, you two introduce yourselves to Hoshino. We're most likely going to meet more often from now on, after all. Understood. After saying that, he cleared his throat, turned to face me, and his eyes met mine. Then he took a deep breath and... Oh jeez, it's gonna be dramatic. Listen well, everyone, for the one standing before you is the Riot Police 2nd Division member. Nobody can count the criminals he's defeated, for his strength alone equals the might of 10 warriors. He is a true man amongst men. It is I, Mineo Enomoto. Remember this name well, rookie. He looks so self-satisfied. Bio, Mineo Enomoto, 23, Riot Police, 2nd Division, former member. Oh god, that was so dramatic. Why do I suddenly feel like I'm watching a period drama? You don't have to take him so seriously. He's what you'd call pure, or clueless. Personally, I'd recommend observing him from a distance. Makes it sound like he's dangerous to stand too close to him. I see. Don't worry about it, Hoshino. This is just his way of dealing with nerves. He can be a bit awkward sometimes. You could also call it a peak of idiocy. It worked. It seriously worked. Okay then, Takeru's next. Bio, Takeru Sasazuka, 24, Cybercrime Division, former member. I was in the Cybercrime Division. The name's Takeru Sasazuka. That's all. A man of few words. Far less ostentatious than the rest of the guys. Well, not that IG's that way either. Enomoto's introduction was so intense, this one felt kinda lacking in comparison. While contemplating this, my mind went back to his previous words, Cybercrime Division. I heard that getting into that division was incredibly difficult. If he managed to do that at his age, it must mean his skills are something else. At any rate, it's hard to think that it's a coincidence everyone gathered here has ties to the police. The reason why you decided to quit was because all of you had doubts about the police's sense of justice, just as the letter had mentioned? I knew I was prying, but I asked them anyway. ... Don't ignore me! Both Enomoto and Sasazuka averted their eyes, clearly not wanting to talk about it. Out of them all, only Yanagi looked straight at me and began to talk.
Everyone has their own reasons for quitting. That much is true. Personally, I couldn't accept the police's philosophy. To get the solution to crimes that I want, I had to do things I couldn't accomplish while being in the police. That's why I'm now investigating the incidents on my own.
I see. Everyone here has something weighing on their mind, and that's why we've all gathered here, each of us investigating the incidents for their own reason. Well, for me, it's not because it's weighing on my mind, it's because it's weighing on my neck. I understood that much, at least.
Hey, I wonder if I'm also included with those they'd like to join forces with.
Probably. Taking the letter into his hand, Shiraishi said that in a cheerful tone, which cut through the heavy atmosphere like a knife. Good question. I'd almost forgotten getting caught up in his strange behavior, but I recalled that Shiraishi was different from the others. You're a member of the police, so why do you know about what's going on here? If we're to believe what the culprit had said, if the police finds out, I'm going to be killed.
It's just that the first letter, the warning in which they wrote they'd kill you, was mixed up with my work-related documents.
Huh?
The documents came from the investigation department, and the letter was very thoughtfully addressed to the detective agency. And that's why I, as a member of this group, was able to pass it to Yanagi, and so we managed to find you. After all, I couldn't just report there's a letter saying, if you let the police know, we'll kill the girl.
Maybe it was because he was saying all this with a smile, but I couldn't see this as anything but him having fun with the situation. And besides, having an actual police worker as a member here, I don't get it.
And the second letter, the one I just showed you, was already lying on the table when we got back here from Shinjuku Garden.
What? The first letter was a warning, and the second one, as soon as the culprit had confirmed I was alive, they went out of their way to leave it here? By looking at just the first letter, you'd think the person who'd planned all this must be from the investigation headquarters. Infobox for that was supposed to be the investigation headquarters, a temporary facility set up in the event a serious crime occurs. Here it refers to Shinjuku Station's X-Day incident-related investigation headquarters. Due to the scale of the incidents, there are over 100 people working there. Wow, that's quite a lot more than I thought. But if the second letter was left here, it means that person who'd put the collar on me came here before they got back? Something like this is not realistic. You wouldn't be able to pick a good moment to break in unless you had a really good knowledge of their movements. Apparently they did. Thinking along those lines, the most suspicious one is... I started to feel dizzy from overthinking things, but there was no stopping the suspicion growing inside me anymore.
Well, can we expect the kitty cat's collar now?
Huh? Hearing these sudden words, I raised my head hurriedly.
Sasazuka.
Wait a second. Who are you calling a cat?
What? Didn't you see? There's a picture of a cat on the collar.
Huh? It's more than that I just didn't want to look at the weird collar. I specifically made the effort not to look at it.
In addition to that, we found a coin at the place where we found you, just like those left at the scene of all the X-Day incidents. There's a picture of a cat on it, just like the one on the collar, and an anemone flower motif.
Anemone flowers. These flowers come in a large range of color varieties, but Adonis' symbol is a red anemone flower. They contain a poison known as proto-anemonin, and in flower language they can mean, among other things, a fleeting dream or dwindling hope.
They're the symbol of Adonis, the terrorist organization responsible for the X-Day incidents. You must have at least seen it.
Adonis, a terrorist organization responsible for a failed assassination attempt on Japan's prime minister. The organization had broken down once, but it's believed that some of its former members are responsible for its revival and the current attacks. Yes.
We took it back and had Shiraishi examine it. It matches the ones found earlier. The Roman numeral signifying the countdown was nowhere to be found, though. If it was the December incident, then the numeral should have been 1. If it were only the collar, then you could think of it as a copycat crime, but since the coin matches... There's no doubt it's connected to the X-Day incidents. Hey, don't steal people's lines! That was the best part, too! I don't care. You're the one at fault for making a big deal out of this.
I felt sorry for Enomoto, who was looking very disappointed, but there was no time for that right now. If the culprit is connected to the X-Day incidents, that means that finding them will be extremely difficult. After all, the police have been putting their every resource into solving this case, yet there haven't been any noticeable developments. Plus, as someone who doesn't take part in crime investigation, there's a limit to what I can do.
So, can I examine the collar?
Huh? What do you mean, huh? How many times do you have to ask? He asked that again in an irritated voice. I blinked a few times as I hadn't fully grasped the meaning of his words.
However, whoever's on the other side of that collar said we were free to examine it.
True, so we're in no danger as long as he just looks at it. And that is all we have for today, so we'll have to examine the collar in the next episode, which I will have for you as soon as possible. Hope to see you there or in some of my other videos, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye-bye, everybody.